Can an agent change their agency relationship with you once they have your home listed? I'm Amy Shrader with RE/MAX Real Estate 10, and the question that I got asked was, can my agent change from being my designated agent in the transaction to being a facilitator? And the reason the question came up is because they had listed their home with a particular agent, and that agent showed the home to a buyer. That buyer then wanted to put an offer in with the listing agent. So, what the listing agent proposed was that she would remove herself as being a designated agent and become a facilitator in the transaction, meaning she didn't really represent the seller, she didn't really represent the buyer. She was just acting as kind of a go between to do this paperwork and write the offer up. Can the agent do that? Only with your permission. If you are the seller and you have signed paperwork with that agent, one of the pieces of paper that you signed would have been a confirmation of agency where the agent checked they are your designated agent in this transaction. If the agent wants to move from that position to being a facilitator, you have to agree to it as the seller. They can't just say, this is what I'm doing, here, sign this piece of paper. You hired them to represent you in your best interest. So don't be bullied by a listing agent who's wanting to represent both sides. You have to agree to sign off on them becoming a facilitator. I personally don't ever do that. I tell sellers when I go into our listing appointment, I explain what agency is. I explain to them that I am their designated agent and I'm always looking out for them and their best interest. Part of my job as their agent is to show the home to qualified, interested buyers who contact me wanting to see the home. But if that buyer that I showed the house to wants to write an offer, they are either going to be unrepresented, which 99% of the time is not going to happen anyway, or I'm going to refer them to another agent in my office, or if they have their own agent that they prefer to work with, I'm fine with that. I'm never trying to double end the transaction, and double end means you're getting the full commission because there's no other agents involved. That's a lot of liability for a listing agent to take on. I feel like it opens me up to potential lawsuits a lot more than if I'm just sticking in my lane and representing the seller. So if an agent comes to you that has your house listed and they want you to let them default to a facilitator, think through that decision, because you don't have to let them do that. You can say, no, I hired you to be my agent. I want you to refer that buyer to somebody else to write that offer. All they can do is ask you. They cannot make you sign the paper. So make sure your agent is always looking out for you and your best interest, or just call me, because that's the number one promise I make to my seller.